Well, as you know, if you've been watching The Balance, we've been working with Congress directly to release never-before-seen footage of January 6th to tell the full story, the real story of what happened on the at the Capitol on that day. It's obviously not the violent insurrection the left continues to claim. But we now have found one of the craziest January 6th stories to date. The Department of Justice is threatening up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine for one January 6th protester named William Sarsfield. And this man allegedly never entered the Capitol building and even escorted an injured Capitol police officer to safety. Joining me now is that man who's being wrongfully prosecuted by the Biden justice system, William Sarsfield. Also here is David Summerall, who was at the Capitol on January 6th and is founder of the Stop Hate to Spotlight William's story. William, let's start with you, my friend. Let's clear this all up. You were never inside the Capitol building. Can you explain where you were and why you're being persecuted and prosecuted?
Yes, sir. I made the trek, as many people did, through the Capitol towards the properties and the grounds. I never once went into the Capitol. I went to the entrance and the tunnel of the Capitol, and every indictment charge is on, in, or near the Capitol. So it doesn't matter if you were on the grass, on a sidewalk, or anywhere close. But it's gathered mainly anybody that was in the tunnel on the West Plaza, which was the most of the horrific battle scenes, I guess, as the officers put it. When I made the
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to clear it up. So you're there, and yeah, you're one of the crowd. You never went into the Capitol where all the alleged bad stuff happened, which, by the way, we've been exposing inside the Capitol. Completely different narrative than the left will tell you. So you're in a tunnel, but never inside the Capitol. That's important to note. So were you violent that day? I'm trying to figure out why they're getting this likely could be up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. For what did you do? Were you violent? Because I'm watching a lot of violent protests on college campuses right now, and I'm guessing these little nut job soy latte kids aren't going to get charged, certainly not to the extent that you will be. But did you break any windows? Did you hurt anyone? Did you fight? Did you break any windows?
No, sir. I was literally at the back of the tunnel and caught in a group of a whole 10,000 people pushing into the mouth of that tunnel, hollering and screaming, "Heave ho." And the FBI has literally quoted me as a heave hoer. And I've got 6 indictments, I want to say, as a heave hoer, pushing into a crowd and getting pushed with the crowd. And I guess that's because I was touching the guy in the back and there was somebody in the front touching an officer. I'm now guilty of that same.
It's a new term, William, a new term. I'm not sure it's a legal term either. You were a heave-hoer. Okay, you were a heave-hoer. Did you help? Did you assist a Capitol police officer who was injured?
Actually, yes. Like I said, I was at the mouth of the tunnel, and I saw and witnessed Officer Fanone fall out of the tunnel and slide down the stairs, and there's people pulling him down, trying to catch him from falling on the ground, because the set of stairs on the back of that tunnel were quite steep. And there were a lot of nefarious people, and I heard a taser go off, which made me turn and look. When I turned and looked, I saw Officer Fanone down at the bottom of the terrace area, and I immediately saw he was in the ground in distress. So I turned and took like 2 or 3 steps and went to his aid. And when I got down there,
Officer Fanone, the guy who's variably one of the 2 faces. We're highlighting the other officer, Officer Dunn, who has tears all over the place. But we have pictures, we have video of Officer Dunn walking up and down the halls of Congress, not looking threatened at all, but yet he testified that he almost died that day. There he is right there. There's Officer Dunn right there, the big guy, who's just walking. Doesn't look like he's in any sort of danger at all, just kind of, and that's another officer. He's just walking around like lollygagging. We have more video. This is exclusive video to us, folks, that no one has seen this outside of Congress and ourselves and our audience. There he is again. There's Officer Dunn. Yet the story Officer Dunn told was that he was in fearful of his life. He's under therapy. He wants to run for Congress. He wrote a book, became a best-selling book. He's a speaker, makes a lot of money. Speaking on the guise that he was in serious imminent threat of his life, and doesn't look like that. So we busted that thing wide open. But so William, I'm going to get to David in a second. So you helped the other officer, Fanone, who's the other one who's all over the place crying, thinks Trump is an insurrectionist. You're helping this guy, and they're still prosecuting to this extent.
I not only helped him, I helped him to his feet, and then a group of other patriots got together and helped him back up to the mouth of the tunnel. And when I turned to my left, I saw Officer Moore, that I now know that was Officer Morris Moore, through the help of the prosecuting attorney and my discovery, that I had helped Officer Moore all the way down to the grass, to the terrace, to the north side of the Capitol, to an ambulance, and released him to an aid worker or EMT officer at the ambulance. When I explained my story and Mr. Moore's story to him, he chuckled at me and laughed and said, "Nah, that didn't happen." Mr. Moore asked me politely, or actually graciously, thanked me for saving his life. And that time I grabbed a selfie and said, "Thank you so much for doing your job." And we parted ways, and I commenced to walking back to my car with my wife to come back to Texas.
We need Officer Moore to be a witness, with you. Let's bring in David Summerall. David, your group highlights some of the misconceptions of what the media is portraying for January 6th and what really happened. David, tell us in your eyes, what's wrong with this case?
Well, for one, the delay for justice, letting people live in terror for years before you bring charges, and always expecting that door to be broken open or to be accosted in your car, whatever. But, if you know William's story, he literally showed up onto the Capitol property after all the signage was gone, after the policemen were gone, after, every sign of violence had stopped. He gets up to the tunnel and goes toward the screams. He thinks, hey, this is where, I need to help people. He heard the Capitol was under distress. He didn't know who from, and he goes to try to help. He helps two officers, and literally immediately after that leaves, never did anything. It's an amazing story, and for them to go after him so hard and yet expose themselves to the Fanone story, because it's plain as day on video what William did to help him and Officer Moore. So all that's going to come out. It's an amazing story. I hope people really get reinvigorated with J6 by hearing this travesty of what's happened to William.
I'm kind of short on time. I just want to tell you, what we found since the House of Representatives has entrusted us with unique footage that no one's ever seen before is that the actual activity of what went on on January 6th at the Capitol is a far cry from what they portrayed. Yeah, there was a lot of pushing and shoving and protesting, and yeah, things were broken, but they made it seem like the country was about to be, the democracy, American Republic was about to fall on that day. Very quickly, if I may, William, one more time, your thoughts on that narrative versus what you saw.
I'd go in that narrative, but I'd also add to that nobody's seeing what's happening afterwards. There's a lot of destruction going on to good patriots along myself and everybody. Since this has happened, they've hit critical times to put me in jail. They've hit critical times to put me at court. I mean, I have the Zoom court on 9/11 of all times. They had a federal Zoom court to play out. Since this has happened, I've lost my wife. She's passed away from stressful complications of failures of kidneys and stuff. And it's just a horrendous to think that my only son now will possibly lose his only parent left for what? Standing up in my liberty, standing for my liberty. I don't know. I'm kind of speechless.
You and myself and my audience right now are probably in agreement, and David, you as well. I got to go. I want to bring you guys back again as this progresses, because we got to keep an eye on this. Again, Fanone. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go look into this Fanone. more, keep on that officer more, and let him speak on your behalf. That has to be a mitigating circumstance to your case. William Sarsfield, David Sumrall, thank you both so much for being here. And keep
I greatly appreciate
keep
you
the fight
and what
up.
you're doing, sir.
Keep the fight up, William. We're going to continue to bring out your story forward. You come to us. You have our number, and we'll continue to talk about it and expose what they're trying to do to you and so many others in January 6th. Thank you both for your time.
Thank you, brother. Thanks.
All right, folks, coming up, pro-Hamas protesters. A little different, huh? They're getting treated a little differently than those guys right there. It's amazing. It's ridiculous. We're going to bring up some of that stuff. We're going to give you a little bit more of what's going on behind the scenes there. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Harvard Liberated Zone and our Gaza Solidarity Encampment. This is our list of demands.